now tuning in to the Val and Val Show, where conversation is art. Conversation is art. Conversation is art. You should chime in. Ain't no telling what to spark on the Val and Val Show. Ain't no telling the Val and Val Show. You know, ain't no telling where we go on the Val and Val Show. Ain't no ceiling, cause the art of conversation is the flow. It's that creativity available when we speak, available in our homes, available in the streets. We just trying to get it sparking and take it a little deeper. Keep it casual while fireside chatting with our people. Yeah, we take it a little deeper. It get hot when we fireside chatting with our people. Cause conversation is art. Conversation is art. You should chime in. Ain't no telling what'll spark on the Val. The Val and Val Show. The Val and Val Show.
Hello, can you all hear us?
Yeah, I hear you good. I hear you good.
Great, 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 great.
So how y'all doing this evening?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for having us.
I am so happy, and I thank you for accepting my invitation
We're so happy to be here.
here. And I hear an echo on my side. I don't know if they hear it on
No.
Facebook. It's just in my headphones.
Well, we can't hear you from the computer, and I don't think they can hear you. Someone from Facebook said that
Let
they
me
can't hear
see.
you.
You all hear me now?
Well, let Okay, can they hear us
Are they
now?
saying?
Because we're trying to hear you. They said okay. They said they can hear you now.
Okay, right. Let me ask you this question. Did you get any of them now? Did you not get anything?
We're trying to hear you on
Oh,
our.
she's talking to some one of the Facebook people.
What is going on?
Technology, just technology.
Yeah, for real. Hey, I was just wrong. So, okay, let me see. So, who's the co-worker?
Me, that's me.
Okay, dear. Okay, dear. Huh. You're a song with your feet. So, tell us a little bit about you. And start from childhood, where you're from, and everything. And what made you to the career you're in.
Well, I am born and raised here in the magic city of Birmingham, Alabama. Um, I went to Sardis Christian School for, well, first of all, my name is Jamilah Page. Nice to be on with everybody. Born and raised in the magic city of Birmingham. We went to Sardis Christian School, which no longer operates at this time, but Sardis Christian School, if anyone knows of Sardis Baptist Church during the time of Pastor Pettigrew, we were there. That's the school that we went to K through 8, and then I went to Ramsey High School. After Ramsey, I went to Tuskegee, the illustrious Tuskegee University, for my undergraduate degree. And it was during the time that I was at Ramsey that I wanted to major in dietetics, but I didn't know about dietetics at first. If it started with me actually wanting to go to culinary school because I've been cooking on my own since I was 10, and I really enjoyed the kitchen. My mom tells a story of how when I was an infant, I would cry when her and my grandmothers were cooking in the kitchen, but they didn't hold me so that I could look at everything they were doing. So I fussed if they put me down when I was trying to look and see what they were doing and what have you. And so I eventually have found a love for chemistry. I found a love for food science, and that was also just the power of teachers as well. Not only having your at home community, but the teachers who help nurture those pieces of you. I had one teacher and what is traditionally called home ec, but Miss Young, and I took that class with her, and it was then that I learned that you could switch sour cream for the oil and brownies, and that never left me. I said, "Oh wow, this is different. This is very different for someone who was already interested in cooking." And so I wanted to go to culinary school at first, and it was through my mother, well, with my mom and my other and some of my other family members. They were telling me, well, culinary school is great, but being a chef, sometimes it can be a lot on your back, it can be a lot on your feet. Maybe you want to look at other options. And so we did that. And so together, I was able to, with my mom and my family, I was able to explore the world of dietetics, even though I had never met a dietitian. And so we got dug into it, and my mom would always take us to the bookstore. We loved Barnes and Noble, and so there I learned, and I found book of majors, and that's when I learned about dietetics, kind of being the psychology of food, how you use food for healing, you use it for treatment, so all of the different things around it. From there, that was when I said, okay, I definitely want to go to school from this. And by the time I applied for a scholarship through our church, I had already said that I wanted to be a dietitian. I want to get a PhD in nutrition, and I want to help people who deal with certain chronic diseases, or help them if they're in low income areas, what have you. And so that's kind of where everything started. So I went to Tuskegee. I graduated in 2016 with my bachelor's in food science and nutrition with an emphasis in dietetics. I moved down the street from Tuskegee University to Auburn University, and that's where I did my PhD. And so that's where I did my PhD. Excuse me. And I also completed my dietitian's credentials there as well. So I left there after I finished school in 2021. I was a professor for 2 years in Berea, Kentucky, at Berea College, and I enjoyed teaching. But after being at Tuskegee and at Auburn, I worked a lot in extension, in cooperative extension on the nutrition side. So the outreach part of nutrition was really a part of me. I've been a lab rat, so I've worked in just the traditional lab settings, and enjoyed that part of me. But I wanted to really connect with people. And so it was through that way that I was able to explore cooperative extension at Tuskegee and at Auburn. So by the time I became a professor, I was doing community projects such as working with food banks or community gardens. I ended up leaving my professor position because I said, I want to do this more. This is where I want to be. The world is truly the classroom that I want to be a part of. We can't hear you. Um, I don't know why I can't hear anything. Will you say something? I think we found the problem. No, we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. It says, can everybody hear us? Can anybody hear me and my sister? If y'all will let us know.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so honored to be a part of this program. I would like to thank Ms. Val for reaching out to me, my sister and I, for allowing us to share our story with you all. It's so important that we should get to understand, that we get to allow you all to understand the why behind why we do what we do. But hello, everyone. I am student Dr. Hadiyah Page. I am a proud product of Sardis Christian School, Phillips Academy, Ramsey High School, as well as Tuskegee University and the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Um, while I was at Tuskegee, I had the opportunity to learn more about the world of biology and in physical sciences, and that prompted me to learn more about our social sciences. Thus, I applied to the University of Alabama at Birmingham and decided to major in public health, which was one of the most rewarding experiences of my professional career. I had the opportunity to learn about our city of Birmingham as it as it pertains to our social, political, economic, all of our different components that make us up to be who we are. And one of the biggest things I learned about Birmingham is not just the fact that we are predominantly black. It's also the fact that we are severely impacted by gun violence. And this is not anything that we should ever take lightly. I am fortunate to be the older sister to a little brother who is 10 years my junior. I will let you all do the math. However, I'm so proud. I'm so happy to be able to be his older sister because I get a more in-depth look into what our youth experience in this day and age. And one of the things that they experience is massive rates of gun violence and mass incarceration. Thus, they have a lot of things to recover from, whether they deem it as direct or indirect. Thus, I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to have one learned about these statistics as it pertains to our young um, men and women, but also as it pertains to our growing um, workforce. Thus, I want to be able to use my education, my master's of public health, and my medical degree, because I'm currently a medical student. I'm in my third year. I want to be able to use these gifts to help our young people grow and mature in a way that will help. I agree, praying for our young Black youth and men.
Absolutely.
I thank you to Eleanor Fisher who just put this comment in our chat. I want to be able to pour into these young people because these young people are a direct descendant of the things that we have not done correctly, and they are a direct product of the things that we can do to produce a more productive generation. So I want us all to be able to pour into these young people um, so that they are able to create some effective change in our local community and in our greater community.
Mm-hmm.
We're
We
still
still
having
can't
some
hear
difficulty hearing you, Ms. Val. I'm so sorry. We're still having some difficulty hearing you. I'm not sure what's happening right now.
you.
What about now?
Much
Yes,
better. We can
it's
hear you
on.
now. It's
Yay,
better.
there we go.
I
There
don't
we
know what
go.
happened.
Technology is
Okay.
great until they use it. Technology is great until they
We
use
can
it.
hear you loud and clear. Thank
I
you.
mean, I looked. It's my mic. It's the same mic I always use. I don't know. Look, Satan won't be. He gonna be defeated today. He
That's
already
it.
Okay.
That's
defeated.
Today.
right.
Okay, so Eleanor, I'm good. So I look now. I got to figure out what was heard. Look, if we have to do this over, we gonna do it over.
That's
Hopefully,
it. We will
I
not be
need this.
defeated.
Eleanor, answer this for me. Did you hear Jamilah and Hadiyah? Everyone can hear y'all introducing yourselves.
Bless.
God is good.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's what I want to know.
Yes.
Now, it's amazing. I mean, I'm just impressed. I mean, y'all so young,
Thank you.
but I am so happy to know that your mother, your parents saw what I'm gonna say this: what God put you in the earth realm to be.
Amen.
And
Amen.
y'all, I'm a big proponent of that. I did a show with my children several months ago. It was called Raising Them to Be Them, Not You. Because sometimes parents can get caught up in what they didn't do and try to force their
Mm-hmm.
kids play sports, do this, do this. Like your mom redirected you. Say culinary is fine, but what about this? Go learn the science of food. Go learn
Absolutely.
what's healthy, what's not healthy. Me, myself, I'm on a health journey. I've been a nurse 36 years. I battled weight. I've never been little ever in my life. I've lost right now, y'all, 50 pounds.
Oh,
And I've done it in 2.5 years. And some people may think that took a long time, but I also recognize what's driving me to eat sometimes and do the mindless snacking. Losing the weight for me was never a problem. It was always maintaining. So I was at
absolutely.
a point, I was like, I'm tired of yo-yoing. And also for the first time in my life, I said, God, I surrender my weight loss journey to you. I need you through the Holy Spirit to show me how Val needs to eat for Val and get
Exactly.
me to the weight that is good for me. And it has worked. Now, people don't teach you that in church to ask the Lord about helping you be healthy. As a matter of fact, church can help you to an earlier grave just by the meals and the donuts and all that stuff they
Yep.
sell. And I'm just listening to y'all wisdom. So I applaud your parents for redirecting you, guiding you, realizing what God had put into you. And Hadid, you said something major that these young folks, what's going on? This gun violence. It ain't the young folks. When they were 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, none of them wrote out
I want to be a murderer. I want to be a drug dealer.
No,
That it is a failure of us and
collectively.
society collectively. Um, People in the community, of course, we separate. It's like you mind your own business, and people. I don't even want to know my neighbor. I want my neighbor to know me because I want somebody to pay attention to. Valerie and them ain't left their house. Check
Mm-hmm.
on them. And thank God I've always lived in neighborhoods where me and my neighbors had keys to each other's house. For that purposes, and I was intentional about that. So I am so happy that you recognize it. And having a younger brother, I have a 25-year-old son, and there's not a day that I don't think about him being safe. He went out, he bought his dream car. He bought a Porsche, and when he was getting ready to buy, I was like, okay, Cameron. I said, this is gonna put you in a different stage. I say on both
Exactly.
sides of the police, and then you'll see people, black young men would be jealous, and it was
Just
all this narrative like, don't do this. My brother called him from Detroit, was like, okay, Cameron, when you go in these neighborhoods, drive your truck. He has a Jeep Compass. Don't drive that car now. And
Mhm.
it's sad, but that's the reality of it. Now he
That's
works
our
hard.
world.
He works hard. He's a game designer at EA Sports.
Mm-hmm.
But when people, sadly in America, we think the playing field is never gonna be level. Let's affirm that first.
Yeah.
However, we got to get back to teaching self-esteem where people are. Now we need to fight poverty. We need to do all of that.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of other things America needs to do to level the field where if I make minimum wage, I should be able to afford decent housing. Had it
Exactly.
not been that way when I was growing up, my parents were poor. They were able to afford a home because there were things collectively targeted for people of certain levels. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you don't, well, 100K ain't much now in the market today. But if you don't make at least 85 above, you almost can't buy a home and you can't pay
Exactly.
rent. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Or
I live on the
fees.
south side. I paid 175, and this was in 80, 83 to 8 for a 2-bedroom huge apartment on the south side.
Must be
Now,
nice.
I mean, so why do stuff cost so much? We'll talk about that too. That's part of what y'all tackling too. Disparities, where we call them
Mhm.
social determinants of
I was
health.
just about to say, yes, social
Exactly.
And I
determinants.
always say social determinants / discriminations
That's exactly what it
of
is.
health.
And
I like to
they are intentional.
I call it what it is. I mean, y'all they come
Mhm.
up with these nice words, but it's discrimination. We don't have
Mhm.
redlining the way it was done, but it's by zip codes now.
Come on now.
Exactly. And you
It's
can't talk about health and not talk about discrimination.
You can't.
You can't talk
discrimination.
about health and not talk about racism. Because
You can't.
even from the conversations that my sister and I have had with her being in medical school, or just the fact that they're the innate, well, how can I want to say it? How some things are taught
The nature. Mhm.
within our system. For example, that black people experience can have higher tolerances of pain.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's taught sometimes, and not sometimes, a lot of times, and that leaves room in the hospital to ignore people's pain
Yeah.
or to ignore signs that may be vital. For example, like Serena Williams. I love Serena, everything
Ye-
about Serena. But Serena had to talk about the fact that she had to be her own advocate during the time that she was giving birth to her daughter and almost suffered from a pulmonary embolism
Yes. And it
because
had to get ugly with them to get it
in
done.
order to get it done.
I had to advocate for my niece a couple of weeks ago because she went in the hospital with infection. Young black girl, 32 years old, no health problems. First thing they think, well, what kind of STD she has?
Mhm.
All this stuff. Went in, white count 28. Why aren't y'all thinking she has sepsis or something going on? So I normally when I have a conversation, I don't tell them I'm a nurse up front, but I had to come straight out. I've been a nurse for 36 years, worked the ER 14. When people showed up in our ER with these type symptoms, this is what we assume. Didn't even get blood cultures in the ER. 28 white count, that's an automatic draw. And
And
so,
Miss Val,
huh?
not go ahead and finish
Oh,
what
you
you were
go
saying.
ahead. I was saying,
I just want to say that um as a medical professional, we go through phases where when we are understanding and reviewing the circumstances that specific groups face, we are in some ways, we have to consider those things that are more specific to each group.
Yes.
And we don't even take time to consider that this person, while may be a part of this group, they might not experience this specific thing that this specific
Mm-hmm.
group experiences on
Mm-hmm.
a daily basis. Um, and that's difficult to consider, the fact that maybe this young teenage girl is coming to me because she may be having symptoms that are similar to pregnancy. She might not be pregnant, but because she's a young teenage girl, we
Yeah.
have to consider the fact that she might be pregnant. So even when it comes to young, not even just young, when it comes to our Black patients, there's a lot that we have to take into consideration, but there's also so much that we are not informed about. And just me being a young Black woman, I'm informed about these things simply because I'm a Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to my peers, my young or elder non-Black peers, there are social circumstances that they are not inept to, that they don't have the experience of. So because they don't have those experiences, they're not quite sure to presume this to be true rather than they
Mm-hmm.
are to presume this to be true.
Yeah.
It can quite literally be something that it can either save your life or it can literally do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And because we are not, and I say we just because I'm a part of that community, we as medical professionals, as physicians, we're not directly taught these things. We have to learn these things
Mm-hmm.
on the job,
Yeah, there's a
because
cultural competency
it's a lack of cultural competency.
that needs to be
When I was in my master's program, Ms. Val, I had lawyers and doctors, physicians in my program who wanted to leave their professions to come
Mm-hmm.
back and learn more about what is impacting those marginalized communities. And why do they come back? Because they didn't learn that stuff in medical school or
Mm-hmm.
law school.
Yeah. And it's
No,
a great thing that we have that going on now, because at the end of the day, you know what's right and what's wrong. We
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
know that there's still racial disparities, gender disparities, etc. But I always tell people, if you let this ism keep going, then more isms start spiraling,
Absolutely.
coming up or spiraling out of control. And we should be advocates for anything that is not right. We should be
Absolutely.
speaking out, but what it's not, it has nothing to do with race. When I was in the ER, I spoke up for white patients that were not being treated right. It didn't matter, but we know it's more frequent with us that, you seeking drugs. It's always you got to be. I'm like, why they just can't be heard? And if they are seeking drugs, if they present it and said they have a pain, that's what you need to be assessing them for and treating that. And if we strongly suspect that they are by the patterns, because you can have patterns, then we can have someone to come talk to them and have a conversation and say, hey, seems to be you're taking a lot of whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start digging deeper, what I've learned in the ER, generally what physically was manifesting usually was some type of stressor that's going on in people's lives.
Absolutely.
And I tell people this, I've never seen so many young folks that's had colectomies and
Oh,
irritable bowel syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's stress. Because
Yes.
that's
see,
stress. Gut,
Is yes,
the
it
heart,
definitely is. Uh-huh.
you
And for
know,
example, there's a direct correlation with why Black people have higher rates of diabetes than other groups or heart disease. And here's one of them. For example, when let's say that we're walking into your daily routine is that you work in a space that's predominantly white,
mm-hmm,
facing all of these microaggressions, right?
yes,
Normally our body is going to our pancreas is going to secrete insulin so that we can initiate the uptake of glucose.
mm-hmm,
Well, all of those people who are moving around who aren't living in your skin are
yep,
regularly using their insulin. But then when you have microaggressions, or you have to walk in and always be on the defense in your job, you're not using insulin, you're using epinephrine. So what
Yeah.
epinephrine is doing is it's causing our blood sugar to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And so now all day, that person of color, is constantly having high blood sugar levels.
Mm-hmm.
So now that increases the onset of diabetes. There's a
What,
there's
you know what? Let me
manifestation.
interrupt you right here for 1 minute. You know what you're describing? A state of flight.
Yes, absolutely.
Fight. I mean, we're fight and flighting because we're like
Yes,
fighting to be in the environment, and our body wants to like get out of here. We want to get
exactly.
out of here.
But because we
So
can't, it never comes down. The epinephrine levels, or those high glucose levels, stay there because you're not going to fight, because you don't want to lose your job. You're not going to
yeah,
leave because you need to keep your job. So then you're constantly, for let's say if someone stays in their job for 25 to 30 years, constantly on that high alert within their body.
Mm-hmm. And you scared to
I'm
go
gonna
to
tell
the
you why I'm laughing.
Exactly.
Millennials and Gen X ain't gonna stay.
I can't say I'm one of them. I can't
Which
say that.
okay, which I'm gonna
I
say
agree with you.
because I raised children like this. I said, listen, when y'all start working, get your Roth IRA, start looking at your own investments for retirement, so that when it get crazy on the job,
Absolutely.
you have some options, because you should not have to stay. Our parents had to take it.
Yes.
Our parents had no choice because they knew. And one thing that is good, and I hope it works out well, the what is it? The All of Us research
Mm-hmm.
that they're
Mm-hmm.
doing. That is the
Mm-hmm.
first research that's being done to actually look at what you described, Hadiyah, is based on your race, where you live, your location, your history. The research they've done now to show that we have direct stress related from the
Mm-hmm.
transatlantic slave transportation.
Oh yes,
Absolutely.
and
They
there's a term
Yes.
for that.
Yes.
That epigenetics.
Epigenetics.
That
yes,
epigenetics is, and I know a lot of people. I really want for us, and when I say us, I mean Black people. I really want for us to understand how our grandparents, parents, great grandparents, I want us to understand how their experiences directly impact our day to day lives. My grandmother was in her 60s when she decided to go back to school, when she decided to go pursue her law degree.
mm,
That has a direct impact on my perception on I was a toddler when she did that. You know, I was a toddler. My sister a little bit older,
Mm-hmm.
but I
I was
was a
like 5 or
toddler.
6.
You know, I was a toddler when she decided to do that. Nonetheless, her decision to go pursue her law degree
mm-hmm,
directly impacts my decision to be in medical school.
It's exposure.
It's exposure, it's experience, it's determination, it's resilience. Those characteristics, just like trauma, hurt,
yes,
pain, disgust,
Lack
those
of exposure.
lack of those same things are transmitted throughout generations. You know, we
yes,
also, my sister, we also have aunts and uncles. Because as we've stated, we're proud descendants of Tuskegee. We're proud Tuskegee University graduates. We have aunts and uncles that have directly benefited from the teachings of George Washington Carver and
mm,
Booker T. Washington. So just as we are able to hold on and grasp those beneficial characteristics, those things that influence us and take us higher,
yeah,
we also hold on to those things that aren't quite as beneficial, those things that didn't quite benefit our ancestors. But
yeah,
because we have that, but because we have that education, because we have that experience, because we have that know-how, we're able to make a lot more beneficial decisions so that our great grandparents' traumas aren't directly influencing our lifestyles today and right now.
And that's something that we try to make sure that we do, that we have been blessed to be exposed to, our father died of heart disease, and we've
Okay.
been exposed to seeing certain medical procedures. We've been exposed to this type of world, as well as being African American, being a part of different colleges and universities. A lot of people don't get that, and that directly impacts things like what they eat, or how much
Yeah.
exercise they get,
Mm-hmm.
or if they know to go and vote, because those are still public health
Mhm.
issues
Mhm.
that have
Yes.
to be taken into account. For example, when we only see the presidential election is important, but no one has actually taught someone what
Local.
it means to invest in your local politicians and
Yes.
local lawmakers, then that does change the scope. That changes the social context. That means you may not get a grocery store
Mhm.
if you don't understand what the census truly means. Then you're not able to go and make sure that your baby, if you have one within that 10-year span, is going to be counted for Head Start.
Mhm.
And
Speaking
so
of you saying whether we get grocery stores, have you all watched the documentary They're Trying to Kill Us?
no, I haven't heard of that
You
I'm
one.
need
sure our mom has.
Oh, please. It's a young black gentleman did it. They're trying to kill us. It's too he has the documentary, but he also there's always also a part of it where they actually interview him. And he's vegan now. And his family owns one of the most famous barbecue restaurants and somewhere in the Carolinas. I can't remember. But he actually, what led to him, and you said that your dad died of heart disease. I'm thinking had to die young. How old was he?
38.
38.
Oh my goodness, goodness. So sorry to hear that. So literally, so how old were you all when he?
I was 10 when
I
he
was
passed.
7.
Wow,
And
I
our
was
baby
7.
sister was 5.
Mhm.
my goodness, 38.
Mhm.
That's
38
something to
years.
talk about. Did he have high blood pressure, untreated, didn't take the
He had cardiomyopathy when he was around late 20s. So he was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy, and but he also had a very bad motorcycle accident
Okay.
around near on Third Avenue near the Arkadelphia barrel, where you're
Mhm.
turning toward
Right at the intersection.
Birmingham and Sutherland, and so that also played a part on it. So
Yeah.
he had all of these things going on. He ended up being in a coma for a while.
Mhm.
They had to put thick tubes in his head. His legs had to be
It was a
straightened.
lot.
It was a lot
Oh
going
my
on.
goodness. He was a
And
major trauma patient.
yes, and
Yes.
so already having cardiomyopathy, and then your body goes through that kind of issue. After that, he ended up having have a heart transplant. And imagine what that does, especially to a black man who
A
wants to
young black man.
take care of his family, who has
Yes.
children, the pressure that puts on a person, the mental stress that puts on a person. And so yeah, we were able to see that early, and
We
that
did.
we have to it's from that experience that I also will say has shaped us into wanting to do this kind of work. And how can we help people understand that yes, some certain things like a motorcycle accident we don't know about, but if we took care of our body before, if we made sure that we were having our regular checkups, making sure
Yeah.
that we knew what was going on with our bodies.
Preventative measures.
Exactly.
Taking preventative measures, and Ms. Val, I think our dad was a very honorable man. He did a lot of honorable things. He was the youngest um, chief fire inspector of Birmingham. He did a lot of
Okay.
honorable things. I think that just like so many of our young black men, there is some conditioning that has been done, and there's a lot of unlearning that has to
Yes.
be done
Yes.
in order for them to perceive the life that they want to achieve for themselves. I think it was difficult for my daddy to achieve the life he wanted for himself because he had not witnessed it from many other men in his life.
No
Our
representation.
Exactly.
no representation. Our great grandfather, who actually passed away around the same time as Michael Jackson, 2009, he outlived my daddy, and I truly believe And this is one thing I also try to convey to my patients is you are the primary steward over
Your own health.
your own health,
Yes.
your own life, your own health outcomes. You have the power to make your health and your health outcomes the way that you want them to be. And I truly believe that there is some um there's some action that we have to take place. Now when I say we, I do mean we as in black people in Alabama.
Yes.
I'm not even generalizing this. I'm trying to bring it back local. You understand? There are some things us as black people in
Talk
Alabama,
about us.
we, yeah,
Not y'all, us.
what us, we and black people, we have to understand these things, and we have to really take a hold of them, because one, it's our responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's our responsibility to take hold of them and to transmit this message to our children. But two, the change starts here with us right
Absolutely.
now, and as long as we are, our mommy is a very influential and exceptional young woman, and she is 57. She's a very exceptional young woman, and she's always been that way. She's always taught, at least I'm gonna speak for me. She's always taught me that one of the most important things you can do for yourself is look out for yourself, and that expands throughout several different places. That has several different connotations, right? Look out for yourself mentally, as in take time to think about you.
And
It's
what
so
you need.
often, and I'm not a mother yet. Me and my sister were not mothers yet, but I'm confident that our role, and I'll say our, I mean us black women, our role when we are mothers, we have to consider ourselves. That is a direct that directly impacts how our children look at themselves. you
Yes.
know Additionally, we also have to make sure that not only are we looking out for ourselves mentally, physically, we have
Yes.
to make sure that as we are um accomplishing these milestones, as our children are accomplishing these milestones, what milestones are we accomplishing? What things are we seeking to accomplish for
Yeah.
ourselves? I remember being, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna be quiet, but I,
No,
re-
we talking.
I
This chat time.
you're right, Miss Bell. I remember even to this day, I'm 26. My mom is 57. I remember being a young child and waking up and seeing my mom. I wake up at 6 a.m. Mommy was working out,
Working out.
sweating at 6 a.m., drenched in sweat. That significantly altered the way I view my own health. You know what that taught me? That taught me that whatever I want is within my reach.
And
The
that's
health,
health.
the
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle that I want is within my reach.
Yes.
All I have to do is make it happen. Because
Mm-hmm.
once I make it happen, no one can make it happen for me. No one can make it happen for me. It's up to me to fulfill that goal for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. And as I tell you about the Heal program at our church, it's called our motto is reclaiming our health. And went through with my pastor. I stopped. I finally got him to stop doing donuts with coffee in the morning. No, we cannot do that, because this is what we were doing. We have a biggest loser contest for somebody to win a bunch of money. Of course, you know what people do. They're gonna starve themselves, they're gonna take laxatives, they're
Uh-huh.
gonna exercise to get the money. But there were no behavioral changes. So with this
Exactly.
heal program, which we initiated on the coldest day, y'all remember the coldest day in January? January was like, we kicked this off. And not a whole lot of people, it was like 36 people came, but it was wonderful. And
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like this because people do everything else they want to do. People just use the cold as an excuse because there was no ice on the street or anything like that. But it was great information. So we had the second one. We have it in person quarterly, but we're doing motivations and doing education throughout the whole time. So one
Mm-hmm.
lady came to me, she said, well, Val, probably if you would do some incentives to inspire people to come, like have a contest, give them a gift. And I looked at her, I said, honey, the gift is going to be their health.
That's it.
If they don't want to come get this information, I said, whether 2 or 3 show up on those Saturdays every quarter, we're going to do it. Hey, in April, we gave out all kind of door prizes. I'm a member of a group called Weight Loss Guard Way by a lady outside in Canada, which that is where she really talked about submitting your weight loss to God. And she was a fitness trainer, you all. Look healthy.
That's beautiful.
But had a eating disorder. And it wasn't until she became pre-diabetic. So you all need to hear that. Just because you're thin and look healthy don't mean you are. So she said when she became pre-diabetic, she was like, you hypocrite. She said, I would be counseling people, got them eating healthy. And she said, when I got off counseling with Zoom, I would reach in my drawer and be eating chocolate. And she said, Holy Spirit just say, Kathy, you got to get yourself together and figure out what's going on here. And your mother being the role model. I exercise, like I said, and some things y'all have said earlier, it's like an aha. I was like, you know what? My inability to probably maintain the weight loss was probably related to that stressor. And what did you call it? What did you call it?
Epigenetics.
Epigenetics. More than anything, which they didn't teach that in nursing school. Y'all know we ain't heard nothing about that in nursing school. Even though it's highly possible they may have known something like that back then. It just was not shared, and it didn't matter to them. So I tell people the easy things to do: walk. Everybody can walk. Get you a good pair of walking shoes. And I tell people when you start out, if you can't walk for 5 minutes, do 5 minutes.
It'll build up.
Get you some good music or audio books. Walk. I tell them YouTube is a free university.
Oh my
God.
God.
Exercises.
Yes.
My trainer, Doella Thomas, oh y'all, she's a beast, okay? In all ways. But she's a holistic person. I mean, everything. She only works you out for 30 minutes. She said it don't take all that. And what I love about her, because she's a believer, she prays and asks God what each of her individual clients need. So none of us that she trains does the same thing. She said some morning, she said, she showed up at my house last week and she was like, Ms. V, I just wrote, all God gave me was use her body this morning. And as we started working out, she said, it was like, okay, do this, have her do this, have her do this. I told her, I don't think that was God talking to you.
You finding this
I agree, and that's something we firmly believe in. We firmly believe in, number one, the power of prayer, and that it changes things, and that we have to tap into the God within ourselves in order to know what we need to pass on to our people. Because we believe in the power of education to make these changes, whether it's about, how to differentiate your energy dense foods to your nutrient dense foods. I don't teach healthy and unhealthy foods because that depends on who you are or what your perception of healthy is.
Yes.
I've worked with people who believe macaroni and cheese was a vegetable. Some people think that's funny, but when they live in an area or within a bubble where no one has exposed that to them, how can they differentiate it when it's not meat? They know it's not meat. They know it's not a dessert. What else are they going to try to define it as? So that education of knowing what an energy dense food is, and meaning that it has more calories than nutrients, versus a nutrient dense food, meaning that it has more nutrients than calories. And how do we make that distinction to truly go and make a change in our daily lives? I firmly believe that we have to, that's something that we regularly do on making sure that we pray, figure out how we can translate this information to other people so that it can be something that they can apply on a daily basis. Like, Lord, how make me a better steward of the work that you've given me, of the gift that you've given me, so that I can be able to truly be a help to somebody? How do I need to take this information that I've learned and make it to where I don't give a man a fish, but I teach him how to fish?
That's right. And look, and I tell them, and you need a rod and a pole and some hooks and some sinkers and all that stuff. Okay, you need all of that. Exactly. But you know what? You make me think about this with as it relates to health, you know, ham hocks, chitlins, that type of stuff. You know, now people refer that to as the slave diet. And this is what I tell people all the time. Y'all, our ancestors were working sun
That,
up to
that's
sundown.
We
So
must
they
time to
burned all those calories. I say we kept eating
absolutely.
like that, and we're turning on the TV with remotes. We're,
There's the
we're
difference.
vacuuming. I mean, growing up,
Absolutely.
you know what I started back doing? Part of mine. I use my broom more. I sweep.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Yep.
those simple things you can do.
little things.
Absolutely.
It
If you
truly
have a machine that does something,
Like a
sweep.
Roomba that just
You
goes
know,
around the room.
yeah.
Hmm.
Use
Absolutely.
that. I mean, when you go to park, rather than running up a half a tank of gas trying to park at the front door, just walk, get your steps
just
in.
walk.
Take the stairs if you can. If
Mhm.
it's in
Yeah,
your ability, try to take the stairs.
I
Those are those small changes that make a really big difference in your health in the long term.
big difference.
Very big
They
difference.
they really add up.
Hmm.
I have a colleague of mine, and his motto is always take the stairs. And I
okay.
think that's so important because he's one of my medical colleagues, and it's one of those small things that, as we don't really think that they add any value to our lives, but when you really sit and think about the small changes that you can make,
Yes,
small change, and really that's what a fresh page is really about.
Small
We are
sustainable changes.
small sustainable changes. We want to make sure that whatever we are imparting onto our constituents, we want to make sure that those things that we are imparting to them, that they are actually useful.
Absolutely.
Actually useful. You know,
Hmm.
we're not telling. I remember when, and I we talk. Me and my sister talk about this a lot. How our great aunt, our aunt Beverly, one of our favorite people, who was a teacher, elementary school teacher years ago, and she was living with us, and she had this biggest loser competition, and you just mentioned the like biggest loser.
yeah.
She had a biggest loser competition. She was in her 60s at this point. She had the biggest loser competition in her school, and she won simply because guess what she did? She walked.
That's it.
Walk
Simple.
She walked.
She simply got up
and
and walked.
started walking.
And
Y'all
started.
walking.
Those
Yes.
And
simple changes can really make some significant impacts. And
Hmm.
I want for us as Black people to really understand that we don't have to completely alter our lifestyles. We don't have
Hmm.
to do that because
yes,
one of the beautiful things about us Black Americans is our lifestyle.
Hmm.
And there are minor changes that we can make intermittently to make sure
Exactly.
that we're not just putting ourselves in a very precarious situation. There
Hmm.
are
yes.
small, itty bitty changes.
Like draining your canned foods. A lot of us
Mhm.
use canned foods incorrectly. You know,
When
they
I do, I rinse them. I've always, even long
and that's
ago.
that's
Thank
and a
you.
lot of people don't. A lot of people don't know to rinse them or to drain them. And
Yeah,
so then we have these high rates of diabetes because of the sugar that's in there to preserve
Mhm.
it, high rates of hypertension because of the salt that's in there to preserve it. So
yeah,
we having those nuggets to really give to people and knowing, okay, we can manage blood pressure if we
yeah.
do this.
And look, let's talk about portion size. I tell the people,
Yes.
and I always use rice as a good example. Rice, y'all, it's a half a cup. It's a half a cup. What do most people put on their plates?
What
Two
like
cups.
whatever it looks good,
Plus
honestly.
gravy.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
You know,
then, you know, and I you there, you know, I'm glad you said you do you said calorie rich dense foods or nutrients,
is energy dense, meaning that it has
energy
more
dense. I like
calories
that.
than nutrients, and then nutrient dense, meaning that it has more nutrients than calories. And I
And
use that because it really directly helps promote a behavior change. We can say
yeah,
something is healthy, and you can say something is unhealthy, but can you actually define it? And this is just
Exactly.
the scientist in me that I always told my students: if you can't give me anything to back it up to say that it's unhealthy, then don't call it unhealthy, especially
yeah,
when it comes to cultural foods. You
foods. And
know,
I, you know what, because it don't, 'cause you know what, my mom is deceased now. And she was ham hocks here. So I found that she started cooking with turkey some, right?
mhm,
But there were occasions when I would go home. I said, Mom, and so I'm coming home and I love turnip greens, y'all. I said, and I want your old fashioned turnip greens this trip. And I want that cornbread made on top of the stove in the frying pan, right? And that, and then I told her, I said, after this one now, we're gonna go back to the other way of cooking them. But there's just sometimes that's what you want. During
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, yes, I tell
Yes.
people, don't be making me no low-fat version of macaroni and cheese for
Why would you do that?
I
You
had
would
a
be
friend of
damned.
mine.
You would be
She
damned.
made some great pound cake. She is deceased too now. She said, this lady called her and said, well, uh, I want you to make me your pound cake, but I want you to make it healthier. And you would have to know Miss Ida Swift or so. She said, baby, somebody's already done that. She said, it's called angel food. She said, but if I'm gonna make a pound cake, it's gonna be a pound cake. She said, don't be messing up pound cake.
Exactly. And that's one thing that I try to always get people to understand. Like when they hear I'm a dietitian, they'll say, oh, well, don't look at my plate, or don't look at what I'm buying.
Yes.
Or they'll ask me, well, I need to change all of this, right? And I say, no, absolutely not. You don't change who you are, because there are cultural things that are just a part of us. I love macaroni and cheese, and I will not let anybody take macaroni and cheese from me. Yes, it is what we would call a energy dense food, because it has it's high in saturated fat,
Yeah.
it's high in calories. That's fair. That's fair. But does that mean we eat it every day? No.
No.
It means on those other days, outside of whenever my grandmother makes it or one of my aunts who makes it,
Yeah.
that means I'm making sure I'm having a fruit and vegetable with every meal. I'm making sure that I'm drinking enough water and not having too much of the sugar sweetened beverages. I'm making sure that I'm not putting too much salt on everything. Wait and add your salt last in a dish, so that you may find out you don't even need it after you've added the garlic powder, which doesn't have salt, the onion powder that doesn't have
Yes.
salt. Then
Experience with other things. Y'all, it's more than Tony Chachere's and Laura seasoning salt. Okay.
Because
I
we
just
love
want y'all to
Tony
know that.
Chachere's, don't we?
and we love some
Oh, we
Yes.
Lowry.
love some. And some Larry's.
Some
And
Lowry's
we
and
Oh,
love
we
it.
love some
And I'm gonna tell
Larry's.
this, like she ain't paying me, but I Tabitha Brown seasonings are great. The garlic
Okay.
one and sunshine. And I'm gonna tell
That
you all,
sunshine. Oh, that
olives, you
sunshine
can get
season
really
too.
olives sell really inexpensive. I mean, the big things of onion powder, garlic powder, and different stuff. I've gotten some called this does have salt, but it's a lower salt. It's like
Mhm.
65 milligrams or something per serve, but it's called coffee brown sugar something. It's not that much sugar in it, but it's a different flavor because I like
Mhm.
trying different things. I always tell people this for one time in your life, cook a vegetable and just eat it without all that other stuff on it and
Yeah.
actually see what it tastes like. You may discover that really all you need
Absolutely.
is
That's
some non-salt, maybe extra added
true.
flavors, or you can eat it that way. Today I went to an event called I See Me Inc., which correlates. I don't know if y'all heard of that. It's a literacy organization where the goal is to stop the pipeline to prison because that when our kids test by third grade, if they're not literate and can comprehend, they predict, okay, we can build more prisons because they're going to be in the system. And that'll be a young lady. She's here locally that would be great for you all to meet with. And when they gave the statistics of, it showed the poverty in Birmingham, they were showing the school scores, but those red dots that came up, I was like, wow, wow. Oh my
And
goodness.
that's what people don't want to always focus on. Again, that's why we can't talk about health and not talk about racism.
Yeah.
It's a public health problem. That's
Public health.
intentionally, and on top of that, they make sure that certain schools in certain areas do score lower.
Mhm.
Yes.
They ensure that, whether that's through books or it's the redlining or the number of teachers they have there,
Yes, for
shortening
sure.
the staff. That's
Because
part
I
of it.
asked them, I said, what
Mhm.
about those 5 green dots? I said, are all those schools considered over the mountain? And of course, Homewood was there, but I consider Homewood in the over the mountain. It was, of course, Homewood, Vestavia, Hoover,
Mhm.
and Tarrant was there, and whatever the other over the mountain school was. And because when if you don't have a good diet and you're not going to eat well. So the gentleman that was giving the stats, I said, well, let me say this. I said, do you have the correlating data to do with Did the child sleep last night? Are they in a place where they're high crime?
Yes.
Right.
What type of meals are they getting? I said because if I'm hungry or I'm all nervous and stressed out because of my environment,
You're not
I'm
thinking
not
about
gonna
reading,
do well on school. You
learning to
can't teach a
read is the
hungry
last
child. You can't
thing.
teach a hungry child.
and
It's
that's
impossible.
and
Yeah.
that goes beyond like how you were talking about those persistent struggles that
Yes.
students deal with on a regular basis. And when I was in my public health program, I learned a lot about environmental health. And
Yes.
those environmental health courses really impacted the way I view our Birmingham city school system, because not only are we combating our social, political, economic battles, we are also trying to battle our environmental. There's also some
Yes.
environmental factors that play into that. And when you
Hmm.
think about students and where they live and the things that they are experiencing on a daily basis, we can't always conflate their low scores with them being lazy. And
Yes.
I'm not just talking to
Yes.
I'm not just talking about I'm talking to myself. I
Yes.
had to I had to
Yes.
relearn that our students are not just battling those things that they can see, they're battling those things that they can't see,
Hmm.
especially in Birmingham. So for our
Exactly.
students in Birmingham, we have to understand, okay, what are the things that are happening around them that they're
Yes.
not even taking into account, but those things are yet and still impacting their academic performance.
Hmm.
Those things are vital, and we have to understand them as educators.
And develop solutions. If that
Yes.
means we know that students that are coming from a particular area don't have a grocery store, we
Yes.
know that a lot of them are depending on a particular food pantry or don't have health care, don't have insurance. And is the mom working by herself? Is it a single dad in the home? What are those other pieces that are causing these
Mhm.
that are unfortunately causing things like starvation or
Yes.
eating too many foods that are high in saturated fat, high in sodium, and children are developing cracks in the walls of their arteries and their blood vessels. How is that? How does all of that come together? And that's what we love to do, is how do we create a solution? Does it mean we need to get in there and educate these groups on how to use Dollar General as their resource until we
Yes.
figure out how to get them a grocery store? Is it that we need to talk to lawmakers and let them know, okay,
Mhm.
this is the issue that we have going on. Where are the funds that can be allocated to
Mhm.
support this group? And
Because
that's
they
what
got them. They got plenty of money. It's just a matter where it's allocated. So now
And
absolutely.
look, we
also,
got caught up in this, but let me go back to, tell us how you got this name, A Fresh Page, and what inspired that.
I was in the middle of starting this business when I was a professor in Kentucky, and I was just praying and praying and praying, and God just works in so many amazing ways. And so I was just praying and praying and praying about the fact that I had actually gone up for a job, and I won't say where, and due to some things that were not because of what I did on the interview, just because God was protecting me from some things
Hey, won't he do
uh,
it?
every time. And so I didn't get that job. And I said, you know what? Everything that, and I had binders of things that I wanted to do and work on. And I said, everything they wanted me to do, I can do on my own. So that was when I was looking for a name for the business, and I kept praying and praying. At one point, I wanted to be something around like extending a helping hand, or
That's so cheesy.
helpers or something. Exactly right. That's what I wanted. And so I kept thinking, and I was talking to one of my amazing girlfriends who also has a business, and she was talking to me, and I kept starting over. Like I kept wanting to
Mm-hmm.
start over, getting a new page to start my thoughts.
Okay.
And she started saying these different things. She started saying, like a new page, or this page, a fresh page. And once she said a fresh page, I said, you know what? That that sticks. That sticks because what I wanted was for every client or every group that we work with, we don't have a cookie cutter method. We have tools that we bring to the table.
Yeah.
But each client, each situation deserves its own fresh page, fresh start, fresh look at the problem so that we can develop a new solution together. And so it was because I wanted us to make sure that when we all get on the same page, and I mean our last lesson, we're all on the same page. When God brings us and puts all these groups on one accord, we can see change. We can see the communities and the outcomes that we want to have. And so that's how I got to a fresh page. One of my amazing girlfriends was just spouting off some things. But the more I sat with that one, that was the one that
That
really
one.
stuck with us.
Hey, as the old saints would say, that just set in my spirit.
It set in my
It's
spirit. It
But you know,
did.
I had to look this up because when I was like fresh page, I was like Isaiah 43 and 19. Behold, I will do a new thing.
A new
Now
thing.
it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I would even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And that's kind of
Yeah.
hearing what your mission is, your vision. That's what y'all doing. You're
Yeah.
making a way in the wilderness. You're
Thank
rivers
you.
in the desert. And I remember you made me think about when I was growing up one time, I was playing basketball, came in hungry. I'm like, oh, mom, I'm so hungry. I go in the refrigerator. I'm like, ain't nothing in here. You know, I'm just looking at what's in there. So I said, Mom, ain't nothing in here to eat. So I go to take my shower. I come back down and there's food on the stove.
Mm.
And I look, I said, Mama, where did you get this from? She said, out of the refrigerator where you looked and saw nothing. I said, Mama, how'd you
Mm.
do that? She
Mm.
said, baby, you looked in the refrigerator, saw nothing. I looked in the refrigerator, saw a meal. She said, you'll figure it out when you get a little older. She said, you've never had to do it. Now, come on now, when you get to college, you learn. You can make
Yes, goodness.
you learn in college. You can make a meal out of what
Out of
looks
anything.
like nothing. You know, you be like, girl, you got some hot dogs, girl, you got some cheese. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You
You
piece it
learn.
together.
And it was just, and my mom said, you never had to. You never had to make something out of nothing. And that's literally what our ancestors did in slavery, as we call the slave diet. They took the scraps and stuff that are going to be thrown away because you know
Yes.
what they were being feeding was not sustaining them. And they was like, we're going to be working in these fields. We got to have some nutrients. So God allowed them to be able to tolerate that type of diet for that time based
Yes.
on their
For that
lifestyle.
time.
So
Yes.
now we living with geo modified. We didn't even get to talk about that. Y'all gonna have to come back because there's a lot of that we could talk about dealing with diets and different things. I use this thing called the Yuka app, you all, YUKA, and it's based off the European system, which we know is much more healthier because they don't allow all the pesticides and everything else. It scans foods and rates them from 0 to 100,
All right.
and you have to get a 50 for it to be green, and it actually tells you the ingredients and the chemicals in it that they deem is not healthy or whatever. So it goes back to what you said, Jamilah, is that there are things that may scan bad. And I make a decision like, I know this is saying this is bad. However, I know I'm only going to use this one time for this particular thing. And I do it. But it's not a frequent part
Mm-hmm.
of my diet because my goal is, I said, Lord, this is the last time I'm losing weight.
I get that. We want to maintain.
Let me take that back. I can't say lose weight. I have to say release weight. You can release something like
I like
I
that.
like
Release. Come on. I
she
like
said,
it.
I like that because
That's it.
I'm releasing some of my
we're
own.
letting it go. Right. So I'm releasing weight. And I'm also laying aside the weights and the sin. And I didn't realize, I was
Yes.
like, wait a minute. I said, everything ain't a sin. We have mental health, we have mental weights and
Yes,
everything.
goodness. That
So yeah.
contribute to us holding on to physical weight.
Yes, so that's it. Like you said, all those stressors and everything. So
Mhm.
I've enjoyed you all. Sorry for the
Thank you,
technical
Miss Val,
difficulties.
likewise.
I really enjoyed you all, and we're going to be in contact because I definitely have some people that I think will be great for you all. Look, this is my girlfriend from by. Wait a minute, she got rabbit, squirrels, and possums.
Miss Eleanor been live in the chat this whole time. I love it.
She's a nurse too. She was retired now, but she was a nurse anesthetist,
Well,
and she's
thank you,
actually from my
Miss Eleanor.
hometown.
Thank you for joining us. We
To
appreciate
Yeah.
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
So look, I'm gonna do these announcements again because I'm not sure if they heard me at the beginning what I gave earlier. So look, You all, it's Men's Mental Health Month. We want to make sure that you all actually encourage the men in your life to go get themselves checked out emotionally, go to counseling, get in some groups so that they can be whole and healthy. And then this Saturday from 11 to 3, going to be having a health track wellness fair at Railroad Park, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's by Minchie Mental. Dr. Dimitri French, who's a certified nurse practitioner, is going to be holding this. There are many things for you: health screenings, diabetes education, behavioral health, CPR, fitness. So please come out and support these events. It is free at Railroad Park, Saturday, 11 a to 3 p.m. And so please support. Yeah, we got to support these young ladies here. So I am going to say good night. Thank you all for coming. If y'all will hold on, everyone, y'all have a good week.